There is so much mental stress right now because of the current coronavirus situation in Bhutan and worldwide. Everyone is going through a certain level of mental stress. So what are the dangers of such stress for individuals?
See, interestingly, stress is the main reason why many people suffer from mental illness. So when we are stressed, we can have multiple mental conditions, but the most common one is obviously anxiety. So people are panicking, people are worried about getting a disease, some people are so used to going around that they are all incarcerated at home, or they are at least made to stay at home and they don't know what to do, they are getting bored. So all these things actually affect a person's both mental health as well as physical health.
As an expert on mental health, how do you define stress or anxiety in simple words?
Okay, let's put it this way. There are two words we can take at a time. Number one is called fear. What is fear? Now, fear is the response of any individual. That's what is called fight or flight response in presence of a real threat. So if there is a tiger, for example, and you get scared, and then you either want to run away or you want to fight with that tiger, that is the fear. Then there is something called anxiety. Anxiety is actually the same type of a feeling, but in absence of a fearful thing. So basically you are anticipating a fearful situation. So many times people in this type of situation actually experience a lot of anxiety. The worry about getting a disease, the worry about losing your near and dear ones, the worry about being isolated when you ever get a disease, that sort of a fear. So that is what is called anxiety. Now, what is stress then? Now, stress is a general term that is used when we feel or when our body is not able to cope up with the demand of our situation. Like for example, let's say you have a loan, and then you try to clear the loan by making borrowings from here or financial institution here and there. But if all those resources are exhausted, then you don't know what to do. So you go into that helpless situation. So that is stress. Now, if you look at the correct definition, what Dr. Lazarus, who was a psychologist, he defined stress as a condition or feeling which is experienced when a person perceives that demands exceed the personal and social resources that the individual is able to mobilize. So he's basically not able to do anything. So that is what is stress.
As you're mentioning that any sort of fear, stress or anxiety is normal right now at the current situation.
Yes.
So when should...
okay.
Yes.
That's very important, because see, is fear good? Of course it is good. Is some amount of stress good? Yes, because if we didn't have fear, we will not be prepared to face this. For example, if we didn't get scared of the pandemic, what we would do, we would not maintain this physical distance. We would be going around loitering. We will not listen to the order that is issued from the government, all that thing. So in order for us to function to a certain extent, we do require some sort of a stress. That's why we call that eustress. But the moment this stress becomes too much to handle, then we call it distress. That is when we start showing the symptoms of the stress overtaking you. Now what happens is, stress actually can sort of affect almost all aspects of our life. Our emotion can get disturbed, our physical health can get disturbed, we can behave differently, we can think differently. So all that thing can happen when our stress is beyond certain level. Okay, so that is how it is. Now if we are to talk about the symptoms, now we can divide the symptoms into a broad category of emotional symptoms, physical symptoms and cognitive symptoms. Now emotional symptoms are those like you start becoming agitated, you are restless, you become moody, you sometimes feel overwhelmed. That means you are not able to think about something to take care of yourself. So you feel that you are actually losing control of yourself. The other difficulty is you are not able to relax. You know that all these things are unfounded, yet you want to relax, but you are not able to do so. Then sometimes we start feeling that I think it's only me. So they will start having a very low self-esteem about themselves. They can feel lonely, they can feel worthless, sometimes they can feel very, very depressed. So these are some of the emotional symptoms. And then when we go through that, we sometimes try to avoid getting in touch with the relatives, getting in touch with family, friends. So that's another thing. The other physical symptoms, obviously, the most common physical symptoms that people complain is headache. Because you are not able to relax properly. When you are not able to relax, the muscles are very tense, and because of that our head, especially the muscles over our back, can pull your scalp, and then you get a feeling of band around your head. So that type of a headache. You feel totally drained out in your energy. You are not able to do much. People frequently have stomach upset. They are not able to digest properly. They may have frequent diarrhea. They may have constipations. They may have even nausea. The other thing is aches. Because you are not relaxed properly, there are lots of aches and pains in our muscles. Chest pain. Now, because your heart is beating fast, sometimes you feel that heaviness on your chest, and you feel there is a pain over there. You can have difficulty going to sleep. Insomnia is very frequent. You can have cold and cough infection very frequently. Like if we have if we have chronic stress, actually our immunity goes down. So when our immunity goes down, you easily catch cold. So right now we are talking about a disease which is like a flu. And then if we are constantly worried, the chances are that our immunity goes down and we might catch it faster. So that type of a thing. Now many people lose their sexual desires. They will not be able to do. They are very nervous. They shake. So all these shaking things happen. They may even hear a ringing sensation in their ear. They may sweat a lot. The palm and all will become very moist and sweaty. They can have dry mouth. They may have problems swallowing. Some people think that there is something stuck in their throat. They may constantly be clenching their jaws, and they will be sighing frequently, like that sort of a feeling. Now cognitive means when it comes to your thoughts, sometimes you are constantly worrying. You are constantly worrying about what is going to happen. Basically, most of the time we are worried about the consequence. And then we will also have racing thoughts. Your thoughts are going from one place to another. That is one thing. We are easily forgetful. We don't remember too many things. We are not organized properly. So when you are not organized properly, you make mistakes. So if you are a person who is working in an office which requires you to do any critical type of thinking and judgment, you may make mistakes. We will not be able to focus in our own work. There can be poor judgment. We will be very, very pessimistic about everything, and everything becomes negative. So that is the type of symptoms that people experience. Now it's not necessary that you have all the symptoms, but the moment you realize that some of these symptoms are too much to handle, I think that's the time when we must reach out for help. Yes, professional help. Now how can that be done? It's not necessary to come all the way to Thimphu. That's why, like, for example, people who are in quarantine, now they are not allowed to go out. So there is no point telling them that you should go and meet a health worker or anything. But then they can always reach out to the people at the location who can connect them with counselors, for example. Because we have already shared the contact details of some of the counselors who have volunteered to actually help these people in quarantine. So that is possible. Now we have also notified all the medical doctors who are manning these areas, or at least who are providing services in the quarantine centers, to get in touch with us, so that if there is a requirement for medicines, for example, if you are not sleeping at all, you are trying all sorts of relaxation technique, but yet you are not able to sleep, or your symptoms of anxiety is so much that you feel that you are going to have a heart attack or things like that, I think there is a need for some medications. So if that is the case, we can always discuss the medications through phone, and we can provide that help through telephonic consultation.
And currently the social media is flooded with information on coronavirus and deaths and so many news, fake news, facts.
Correct.
So do you feel, is it good for mental health? Is it affecting our mental health?
Actually, see, we have gone through some type of epidemics even in the past, when this social media or exposure to media was much less. So people didn't panic.
Yes.
Now I remember, like, I may have been a small child then, but in 65, 66 there was an outbreak of smallpox. Now we know from sources that people who got affected were sort of cut off from the rest of the villages. They were sort of isolated. Many people died during that time, but still people were able to isolate themselves and be at their own village so that they didn't go and mix up with the rest of the crowd, and that's how they protected. And later on the vaccination started coming. We got vaccinated. I still remember, as a small fellow, they were giving us toffee to get the vaccines to us, and then by 71 or 72 it was eliminated from the world. So now what is happening is, many people are sharing information in the media. Now bombarding ourselves with so much of information is not good. That's why recently I had shared one recommendation that was given by psychologist, which says that number one is, please isolate yourself from any type of news in regards to coronavirus, because there are people who provide you correct information, there are people who just try to scare you, there are people who give you remedies. I think recently Quinsel was talking about some black soil being used in Samchi or somewhere, no? That sort of a thing. See, people come out with magic. So we should not get bombarded with this. Please, that's why I always say, please isolate ourselves. Isolating from coronavirus is fine, but right now what is required is isolate ourselves from all these rumors and all these information in regards to coronavirus. Now, whatever information we get from the government, we should be updated, because that is very important. But beyond this, it is not necessary. Another thing is, we keep on hearing how many people died. Now, is it really important? I mean, it's not a football game or a cricket match that we need to have a score of people dying. Yes, people do die, but at this juncture, people will come out only with those figures where people have died of coronavirus. Now, people can die of motor vehicle accident, people can die of suicide, people are dying of any other illness, but that is not reported. Right now, what people are reporting is only coronavirus. So that makes us overwhelmed. Number three, there are people who also put some fatalistic sort of Facebook posts and things like that. Not many people can really handle that. Everybody does not have equal type of mental capability to handle these type of rumors. So instead of doing good, it might even cause more alarm and people might suffer from depression. So we should not be carried away by this. That's my advice.
And how bad is mental stress for our physical health?
It is definitely bad. Now that's why I'm saying, if we have immediately the physical symptoms that I mentioned was low energy, headache, you are not sleeping well, you are tossing, turning, you are restless, all these things can happen. But if this continue for a long time, it definitely brings down our immunity. When our immunity goes down, we are more likely to catch different types of infections, including flu, common cold, maybe bacterial infections also. So it is always good to be more positive, more relaxed, more optimistic rather than pessimistic, so that we can take care of our physical health, so that we don't succumb to something which could be avoidable. Now, getting an infection, dying of an infection is something that is far-fetched. Are we going to have that? Maybe. But worry when the time comes, not right now. Right now is not the not the time for people to start worrying about something that may happen to us. We know that only very small percentage of people actually get severe infection, and out of that small proportion, only a tiny proportion actually dies. We know these are the facts, yet sometimes we feel that it could be me, because when you are in that fear situation, you forget that there are people who are weaker than you. You always think that I could be the one. So instead of waiting for the virus to kill you, you are already killing yourself by these thoughts.
Yes. And in current situation, we are advised to stay home, work from home, and study, do schooling from home, is e-learning and all.
Right.
So most of us are confined, most of the family are confined in small flats,
Right.
and they're sharing small space for, they see each other for 24 hours every day. So this could also cause some level of mental stress or inconveniences. So how can we help each other to cope up with the situation?
Okay. Now, the isolation definitely is stressful, in the sense you get bored, you are confined to a small space, you don't know how to spend your time, you are not getting connected with people physically, so you feel you are isolated. Now, unfortunately, these are the requirement of the day. Now, this is an invisible war that is happening. Now, if let's presume that we were in the middle of a war, bombs coming down, same thing. We had to be inside these lockers, we have to be there, and in fact we would be more scared perhaps because there will be noise. Yes. At least this virus is not making any noise. So we have to devise some mechanism to entertain ourselves even though we are segregated. Now, physical distancing does not necessarily mean that you are distancing yourself socially. So keep in touch. Now, maybe sometimes we should look this as an opportunity. Maybe now it is the time when you can connect with people whom you had forgotten to even call. Sit with them, call, discuss through telephone, through social media, whatever is available for you. That is one. Now, because you are all the time confined in your house, and if you don't have a campus where you can go around, I think is even small bit of exercise is very good, because that is important. The other thing is, many times when we think so you may not be maintaining the day-to-day routine that you may have maintained in the past. For example, getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning because you have to prepare the child to go to school, things like that. We can still continue to do that. Prepare your timetable according to what you used to do in the past, so that you are fruitfully engaged. Now, this is the time to develop hobby, if you ever thought of doing something, because nowadays you can learn a lot of things through YouTube, through so many other things. So if you have that capability, please do so. Now, exercise can be done by climbing the stair up and down. That's also exercise. Doing a little bit of yoga. Nowadays you can learn yoga through all these media. Learn that. Do sit-ups if you don't know anything. Do some little bit of meditation. Prayer. All of us are religious people. We can do prayer and then help ourselves. Guide a child if you have one who goes to school, so that you are fruitfully engaged for certain hours. Have routine time for your meals. Have meals together. If you had missed that opportunity in the past, it is the time now. Maybe experiment with something like bakery thing, anything, or you may like to cook something which you always wanted to cook. So this is the time. So what I'm saying is, just because we have been asked to stay inside the home doesn't mean that you are in a jail. It's all in our thought. If we think that we are helping the government, we are helping the country by being isolated, I think that positive thought itself will make you more relaxed. Many times people take in, I'm getting bored, I don't want to be alone. If you have that type of an attitude, you will get frustrated again and again and again. So if the same situation can be taken as an opportunity, I think we do better mentally.
And as you're mentioning that insomnia is also one of the side
Yes.
effects of stress.
Correct.
So what would be your advice to maintain a good sleep hygiene?
Correct. Now, sleep hygiene is very important. Now, insomnia, the first treatment for insomnia, if it is not related to anything else, because if it is related to stress, if it is related to other mental disorders, that's a different issue, because sometimes if we don't take care of those things, insomnia might continue. But now, insomnia alone can be treated by maintaining a good sleep hygiene. Now, the good sleep hygiene is something like this. It refers to a series of healthy sleep habits that can improve our ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So these habits are the cornerstone for cognitive behavior therapy. Like people who talk about cognitive behavior therapy, they try to do this. So what are the tips? Number one, it's always good to have a consistent time to sleep. Same time to sleep, same time to get up. So let's say 10 in the evening and you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, for example. Because what is important is to have at least 6 to 8 hours of good sleep. That is what we target for. There are people who can do better with less sleep, but generally it is, the researchers have shown that you need minimum of 6 hours of sleep to be totally functional. So even during the weekends you should have that. The next is, don't go to bed unless we feel sleepy. That's what they say. If we don't fall asleep within 20 minutes, you just get out of the bed and do something else. Don't waste your time just tossing and turning and thinking about something and stressing yourself. It's always good to establish some sort of a relaxing technique before going to bed. Now, how do you get that? There are lots of relaxation audios available in the net. If you have that problem, please go to YouTube or somewhere which can give that guided relaxation which we can use. Sometimes imagery is used, sometimes guided muscle relaxation used. Even like, just for the benefit of people, I have recently I have posted 2 such audios. They are of course in YouTube, but video is just a background. Otherwise there are 2 of them. One is called progressive muscle relaxation, where you are consciously relaxing all the muscles. One is just going for a relaxation, so people can use that. Now they say that use your bed for certain purpose only. Don't use it for like watching television or doing too many things. That's why your bed is supposed to be used only for sleeping, and make your bedroom quiet and relaxing. It's very good, it's very important. And then as far as possible, put off all the light in the night. Many people have the habit of keeping some dim light or red light or blue light, whatever, but it is researchers have shown that actually darkness stimulates the production of something called melatonin in our brain, which is one chemical that is essential for maintaining our biological clock. So if we put on the light, sometimes the melatonin secretion goes down and our sleep can be disturbed. Okay, but there are people who can manage to sleep even in bright daylight. That is different, but I'm talking about people who have trouble going to sleep. Your bedroom should be quiet, and the temperature, they say, that should be slightly low. Normally the bedroom temperature, they say, should be between 16 to 19 degrees. It's cool, so that you can put a blanket and nicely sleep. So towards the evening, don't go out and expose yourself to too much of light. That's what is the. Now, if there are any devices which can disturb you during your sleep, just put it off. If it is helpful, very mild, soothing music sometimes is helpful. Now, some people get sleep by reading, so if that is the habit, go ahead, but don't read something that is taxing to our mind, something that disturbs us, some relaxing type of a thing. Avoid drinking coffee, tea, or even alcohol at least 2 hours before we go to sleep. And they also advise that don't do heavy exercise towards the evening. If you have to do it at least 2 to 3 hours prior to going to bed. And then the food intake, night food intake should be as less as possible and not very spicy. Because many times what happens is you take very spicy food and then in the night you get that sour type of a regurgitation in your mouth that can actually make you get up and it might disturb you. Restrict your fluid intake at least 2 to 3 hours prior to going to bed so that you don't have to get up in the middle of the night, go to bathroom, come back and you are not able to sleep. So these are some of the tips for sleep hygiene.
I think most of us are going through certain anxieties because of the situation right now, like fear of losing job and uncertainty of future, or rather most of us are becoming very pessimistic about future. So how should we deal with such anxieties?
Well, this is a very sad thing that is happening. I know that a lot of businesses are now very low. People are getting displaced. They are not paid enough. Now, we have to take it in a positive stand in the sense that this is a temporary thing, it is going to go away. But how long it is going to take, we really don't know. So actually, like when it comes to the mind, it is only becoming more positive. But the problem is, like if you are not able to meet your daily needs, then I mean, no amount of my advice or no amount of psychological sort of advice is going to help, because then you might start saying that go to hell, I'm dying of hunger and you are talking about virus. So I think that is very important. People somehow the employer should be able to help. I think the government is appealing to many of the employers so that people don't go into that state where they become so desperate that they might even take their own lives, or they may react in such a way that they will just risk their life to this virus, whatever. So I think we have to balance. Somehow there has to be a mechanism put in place by the government, because if I tell somebody who is starving that don't worry, your hunger is going to go away, that is, I cannot be that blunt. But in practicality, if we have saved something, if we can manage with less amount of money than we used to do in the past, if we have to salvage something, now if nothing is helping, I think most of us actually belong to the village. We all belong to the village. Suppose if tomorrow I'm told, okay, now government is not able to pay, you go back to the village, I have to be able to accept this, because most of us own land, because His Majesty has been so kind to look at the need of the people, and His Majesty has been granting land kidul, or this kidul, that kidul. So I don't think there is anybody who does not have a piece of land where they can just grow something and until we tide over the situation. So I think it's high time we think about those things. The other thing that I was also thinking is, I think soon we are going to see a lot of people actually withdrawing from drug and alcohol. Alcohol somehow is still available, but drug, for example, because border is sealed. I already got a call from Phuntsholing saying that one guy is withdrawing from the drug that he was taking because he's not getting his quota. So this is going to again be a big problem in our sector, because when we talk about mental health, we talk about drug withdrawal. Now this guy can become violent if he is not getting his daily quota. So we are worried. So we have put him on medications, and I hope he will get over these withdrawal symptoms. So there are so many things that just pacifying or just giving a nice talk is going to help. So I think all of us should help each other, see how best we can. Like if we have slightly fortunate relatives, we should be able to pull in a little bit and help those unfortunate ones. I mean, there are various ways. The other thing is, as I mentioned, I think sometimes, okay, when the situation improves, I'll come back to Thimphu, or else I'm gone now to Mongar or Tashigang or Samjongkhar, wherever you belong to. Go there, help your old parents. People are already doing that, I guess, and there's a good thing to do at this moment.
And I think we have so many youths who have come back from colleges. They homebound right now.
Yes, yes.
And there are so many students also who are not able to meet their friends. They are home.
Yeah.
So they also are going through certain mental stress.
Yeah.
So how can we help them?
Yeah, that's why, like anybody who is in the quarantine, for example, who are very patiently waiting for their relatives to meet them and all, and they are also worried that they might test positive. I mean, see, when you are in that small confined area, your thoughts are going to increase anyway. That's why I'm saying that sometimes thinking positively, not getting exposed to all these media so much, getting connected with your family and friends through any media that is helpful. Now, Bhutan Telecom has promised that they will give free data during the quarantine. All these things are helpful, so that they, even though they are physically in a distance, they will still be connected. They can have a chat at least once or twice a day. All these things are helpful. And the moment they realize that they are not sleeping, they are becoming too edgy, there are symptoms that I described already about anxiety and this stress, they should immediately get in touch with whoever is in the center, and then get help from the counselors using the phone numbers that have been given. And then if necessary, they can even contact the doctors who are around there, so that we can provide medications and help them relax. So that's the only thing. So I already know that when this quarantine period got increased from 14 to 21, oh my God, now another 1 week. No, that's the feeling. So that's why a lot of encouragement is given by people, saying that, okay, by you isolating, you are actually helping the country. So that's a positive sort of a way to tell them. Now, many times we sort of ostracize people, or stigma jumbe, like you don't want them to be near. That is not going to be helpful. And then anyway, they are being taken care of. If they develop any cough, cold, anything, they are immediately isolated. They are taken, they are treated, they are tested. So things are, I think, moving.
And as we end our program, what would be your advice to our viewers on how to maintain their mental well-being during times like this?
Number one is like maintaining a good physical fitness. Now, even when we are at home in a small place, a little bit of physical activity is very, very important. So maybe some sit-ups, maybe going up and down the staircase, all that thing is going to be helpful. Have regular meals, and as much as possible take healthy meals. Don't take too much of fried things or too much of spicy things. Good thing. So that is another thing. Have sufficient rest and sleep. That is very important. Avoid any type of substances or alcohol as much as possible. So sometimes people tend to relax themselves by using this. So in the process, after all this isolation is over, you become addicted to something that's not going to be helpful. You may have problem. Then practice relaxation and meditation. As I mentioned, meditation is very helpful, but how can you learn? If you have already learned, please use that technique. If you have not learned, there are ways and means to do meditation. So one very simple meditation I was the simple mindfulness. Now, when we talk about mindfulness, I'm not a lama, so I shouldn't talk too much of philosophical things. I'm just a mental health worker. But whenever I come across situations which needs me to relax, what I do is I just focus my attention on the breathing. So I just sit quietly, focus my attention on my breath, and then like I'm mindful about the thoughts that come to my mind, because after 15 to 30 seconds of my concentration on the nose, our mind starts wandering off, and there are lots of thoughts that may come, some good thoughts, some bad thoughts. Now, being mindful is to be mindful of not reacting to these thoughts. You just be there, think that these are just the activity of your brain, and keep on concentrating on nostrils. So if you are able to do that, what you are doing is actually you are sort of analyzing those thoughts without being judgmental about them. When you don't become judgmental about your thoughts, you are not reacting to a good thought by becoming very happy, nor are you getting distressed because of a thought that may create a negative emotion. So that is what is called. So this is a very simple meditation that many people can practice. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. To begin with, you have to start with 1 minute. That's what school children are said, okay, mindfulness, and basically they don't know what they are doing, but they are just sitting there for 10 minutes, some are giggling, but actually the idea is to focus on our breath. So when we focus on our breath, after some times when you close your eyes and see, you will realize that the air, the cool air from outside actually enters your nostrils, which is happening unaware. Basically, when we are breathing, we are not totally aware of it. It's happening automatically. But when we are mindful, we notice these things. And sometimes we notice that the air is slightly more from one side or the other side. So that is when your concentration is happening. You are basically concentrating here. Now the Buddhist master will tell you to focus on different things, maybe a deity, maybe a Guru Rinpoche, Shabtung, whatever. But then this is not that type of a meditation, because until very recently, until the Western psychology came into practice, people always thought that meditation was only for lamas. Losum chesum deve gomgi. But that's not what it is. It is simple relaxation. The other relaxation is the progressive muscle relaxation that we can do at home. We can basically keep on like contracting our muscles, group of muscles from head till the toes. So my recommendation is, I have a progressive muscle relaxation guided video uploaded in my YouTube account. YouTube. My whole name is Damber Nirola. If you look for it, you will find it. Use that and then relax. I hope you can relax using that. So best thing is, put a earphone, don't open your eyes, just listen to the voice and you can relax.
And I have read some books on psychology, and it says it's very important to give a positive mindset. Is there any specific advice you want to give for our viewers, especially youths, on how to be more progressive in thoughts and to be more optimistic?
But I did read a book by Viktor Franklin, who has in fact invented something called logotherapy, where he challenges a mind to show them that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Because many times people are so short-sighted that they don't see that. Many of our young people want very immediate gratification and immediate result out of whatever they are doing. That's not what success is. People have succeeded even when they became very old. So we should always have optimism in life. Now number two that I always tell people is, we should always hope for the best. We should always hope for the best. But that doesn't mean that we should not be prepared for the worst. Because otherwise what happens? If that best thing doesn't happen to you, you get hopeless. That should not be the thing. The other thing I say is, always have an alternative. This is same in the armed forces, for example. If they are marching and suddenly there is a big gorge or there is a big mountain that you have to climb, you have to look for an alternative pathway to go to the other side and negotiate with your enemy. So similarly in life, there are a lot of obstacles. So sometimes we think that this is the best thing to happen, but then it may not happen. So then what? Is it end of the world? No. We should always look for the alternative. So this is how things have to go. And then I think over the periods we have learned this, and like let me give an example of myself. Like I became an orphan at the age of 11, for example. So if I had a negative thing about myself, I would be plowing the field. Maybe I must have thought that, okay, my parents have only left me some land, so I'll just till this land. I'll go to the farm. I'll not study. I could have been a very old farmer, because by the age of 60, a farmer is pretty old. That is how old I am. Okay, but then I didn't do that. Why? Because I always looked forward a positive thought until I could succeed. So we can succeed somehow. So that positive thing has to come from you. Nobody has to tell you. So we have to look at that light at the end of the tunnel. If we are not doing that, we are just looking closer and just deciding that your life is finished, you are finished. So our mind should be strong in this modern world. Physical strength may have been a good thing to have, but physical strength in comparison to mental strength, I think, is less required in this modern day. So if you are psychologically resilient, see, many times we don't realize that we have gone through difficult time. So why don't you bring that capability, that skill that you may have had used in the past to cope up with the present? Many people don't think that way. So that is what is resilience. So if we were able to do something in the past, we will still be able to do now, and we have to use the same technique. Now, thinking about something that may happen, may not happen, is totally futile. Hoping for the best is the best.
That's a beautiful piece of advice. Is there anything you want to add, Lord?
Let's be positive. This is just a temporary phenomena. It is going to pass like any other things that have happened in the past. Let's hope for the best and don't stress ourselves. Please follow whatever guidelines have been given there, like washing your hands, distancing yourself physically, and then remaining at home as much as possible. I think all these guidelines should be respected so that we don't risk ourselves and expose ourselves to the imminent spread of disease. One day or other is going to come. I mean, there is no denying. But then the more we distance ourselves, the better is the chance that we can prevent it from spreading wildly like in many other countries. I think our king is doing a lot of things. Our government is doing a lot of things. I think the main idea is to protect all of us so that no one dies of this pandemic.
Thank you, Doctor, for your time and sharing your knowledge and insight with us.